I sent my sister $500 every week, but she didn't invite me to her wedding. She'll regret it for sure. The first time Mia called me crying about her rent, I didn't hesitate to help. That's what big sisters do, right? Liv, I hate to ask this, she sobbed through the phone, her voice cracking with what I thought was shame. But I'm 3 days from eviction. I wouldn't ask if I had anyone else to turn to. I transferred $500 to her account before we even hung up. The relief in her voice was all the thanks I needed. That was 4 years ago. What started as a one-time emergency became a weekly routine that I never questioned. Every Monday morning, like clockwork, I'd send $500 to Mia's account. Sometimes it was for utilities about to be shut off. Other times, it was for unexpected medical bills. Once, she claimed she hadn't eaten in 2 days. "You're an angel," Mom would tell me during our Sunday calls. "Your sister would be homeless without you." Dad was more direct. "That girl can't catch a break. Thank God she has you, Liv." I believed them. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Family doesn't lie to family, at least that's what I thought. My own life was comfortable, but hardly lavish. I worked at a marketing firm, made smart investments, and lived modestly in a one-bedroom apartment. I skipped vacations, drove the same sedan since college, packed lunches, and limited dinners out. Every sacrifice was worth it when Mia would call, sometimes in tears, to express her gratitude. "You have no idea how much this helps me live," she'd say, her voice thick with emotion. "I promise I'll pay you back someday." I never kept track of the total. Why would I? She was family. My baby sister who'd always looked up to me, who'd followed me around the house when we were kids, who'd worn my hand-me-downs without complaint. If I could ease her struggles, I would. "Don't worry about paying me back," I'd assure her. "Just get on your feet. That's all I want." Our parents had always described Mia as the sensitive one, the artistic one, the one who needs more time to figure things out. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the practical one, the one we never have to worry about. The roles were set early, and we played them perfectly. During holidays, Mia would arrive with thoughtful but inexpensive gifts, handmade candles, knitted scarves, framed photos. "I wish I could give you more," she'd say, looking down at her worn shoes. I'd hug her and tell her that her presence was the only gift I needed, while silently vowing to keep supporting her until she could stand on her own. Sometimes weeks would pass without direct contact beyond my Monday transfers and her brief thank you texts. When we did speak, Mia painted a bleak picture: temp jobs that never became permanent, roommates who skipped out on rent, cars that broke down at the worst possible moments. "I applied for 3 jobs yesterday," she'd report. "But you know how it is in this economy." I didn't question the perpetual crisis. I didn't ask for details. I didn't request proof. My sister was struggling, and I could help. It was that simple. The weekly $500 transfers became so routine that I barely noticed them anymore. They were just another bill, another responsibility, another way I proved my worth as the dependable older sister. I took pride in being Mia's safety net, her guardian angel, her silent supporter. Once, when I had to delay a transfer by 2 days due to a banking issue, Mia called me in tears. "I don't know what to do, Liv," she wept. "They're going to shut off my electricity. I have interviews this week. I need to iron my clothes, charge my phone." I drove across town that night and handed her cash from my emergency fund. The grateful hug she gave me felt genuine. Her tiny apartment looked appropriately sparse. A few pieces of mismatched furniture, chipped dishes in the sink, threadbare towels hanging in the bathroom. "You're saving my life," she whispered. "Literally saving my life." I believed her. I never thought to open her closet and look for designer labels. I never peeked in her bathroom cabinet for luxury skincare products. I never checked her social media accounts. I never realized I was being played. In 4 years, I sent Mia approximately $104,000. That's not including the extra emergency transfers, the birthday and Christmas gifts, the times I covered her portion of family presents for her parents. $104,000 of sacrifice, transfer by transfer, week by week, to a sister who was supposedly one step away from disaster. A sister who, as it turned out, was living far better than I was. Mia's wedding is going to be something else, my mother said casually over our Sunday call. The venue alone cost a fortune. My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. Wedding? What wedding? The silence on the other end of the line stretched uncomfortably. Oh, Mom finally said, her tone shifting. I thought she told you. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mia was getting married? My sister, who just last week had called crying about not being able to afford her electric bill, was planning a wedding? When? I managed to ask, fighting to keep my voice steady. Next month, June 12th, at the Rosewood Estate. The Rosewood Estate. Even I knew that place. It was the kind of venue celebrities chose, with manicured gardens and a ballroom that could host hundreds. I'd once looked it up out of curiosity after a client mentioned her daughter's dream wedding there. The starting price was $50,000, just for the venue. I ended the call with Mom quickly and immediately dialed Mia. My fingers trembled as I pressed her number. She didn't pick up until the fourth ring. Hey, Liv, can I call you back? I'm kind of in the middle of something. You're getting married? The words burst out before I could soften them. A beat of silence. Oh, yeah, she replied, her voice suddenly cautious. We've been planning it for months. Months. The room seemed to tilt. Who is we?
Who are you marrying?
Why am I just hearing about this now? Daniel. You met him at Christmas, remember? Mom's friend's son. I did remember him. Tall, charming, from a wealthy family. I'd assumed he and Mia had just started dating. Not that they were planning a wedding. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, hurt creeping into my voice. I've been busy with wedding stuff, she said dismissively. You know how it is. No, I didn't know how it was. I'd never been engaged. Never planned a wedding. Never even had a relationship last more than a year. Partly because my spare time and energy went to working extra hours to support my sister. Let me help, I offered, swallowing my hurt. I could pay for part of the wedding. The flowers, maybe? Or the photographer? It was a reflex, this offering of financial help. It's all covered, don't worry about it, she replied quickly. Look, I have to go.
Cake tasting.
I'll call you later, okay? She hung up before I could respond. Something wasn't adding up. The sister who couldn't afford groceries was having a wedding at the Rosewood Estate? The sister who lived in a tiny apartment with mismatched furniture was having cake tastings? That night, I did something I'd never done before. I looked up Mia on Instagram. We were connected, but I rarely checked social media. My profile was sparse. A few professional events, shots of my houseplants, a vacation from 3 years ago. I assumed Mia's would be similar. I was wrong. Her account was filled with photos. Not the struggling young woman I'd imagined, but someone living a life of luxury. There she was at rooftop bars sipping champagne, on weekend getaways to coastal resorts, at designer boutiques, surrounded by shopping bags. My thumb froze over one photo in particular. Mia, beaming in front of the Rosewood Estate, showing off an enormous diamond ring. The caption read, 90 days until I become Mrs. Evans. #dreamwedding, no expense spared. The timestamp, 3 months ago. 3 months of weekly $500 transfers. 3 months of believing she could barely keep her lights on. I scrolled back further. Photos from a year ago showed Mia in what was clearly not the apartment I'd visited. This place had floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, marble countertops. New place, new me. #upgrade life, the caption read. My chest tightened. The evidence was overwhelming, but my mind struggled to accept it. What about the shabby apartment I'd visited? The one with the mismatched furniture and chipped dishes? With trembling fingers, I searched for Daniel Evans. His profile was public too, filled with photos of him and Mia at exclusive restaurants, courtside at basketball games, on a skiing trip to Aspen. One photo showed them together at a luxury car dealership. Early wedding gift for my bride-to-be. #Range Rover, only the best. The date, 2 weeks ago. The same week Mia had called me, crying about not being able to afford her car insurance. I kept scrolling, each image landing like a blow. Lavish pre-wedding parties at upscale venues. Designer dress fittings where bottles of champagne sat on elegant side tables. Exotic honeymoon reservations, Bora Bora, according to a screenshot Mia had posted with a caption, "Countdown to Paradise." Hashtag honeymoon dreams. 4 years of sacrifice crashed down around me. 4 years of skipped vacations and budget meals. 4 years of believing my sister was one missed payment away from disaster. She wasn't struggling at all. I had been funding her luxury lifestyle like a fool. As the truth sank in, a new, more painful question arose. If Mia had been lying about her finances all this time, what else had she lied about? And why, if she was planning this extravagant wedding for months, hadn't she invited her own sister? The sister who had been supporting her for years. The revelation of Mia's deception left me sleepless. Every night, I'd stare at my ceiling fan, watching it spin as I recalculated the depth of her betrayal. $104,000 over 4 years. That money could have been my down payment on a better home, a master's degree, a year to travel and find myself. Instead, it had funded my sister's champagne lifestyle while I ate ramen between paychecks. Yet, despite everything, a small voice inside me whispered excuses. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. Maybe the invitation was coming. Hope is a stubborn thing. When the embossed cream envelope appeared in Mom's Instagram story, so excited to receive this beauty. Hashtag daughter getting married. That hope cracked. I waited 3 more days, checking my mailbox with trembling hands each evening. Nothing came. I called my mother on Thursday night. "Mom, did you get Mia's wedding invitation?" "Oh, yes. Wasn't it gorgeous?" The calligraphy alone must have cost a fortune. I swallowed hard. I didn't get one. There was a painful pause. "I'm sure it's just lost in the mail, honey." "Mom." My voice hardened. "Did Mia invite me to her wedding?" Another pause, longer this time. I could hear my mother's uncomfortable breathing. "You should talk to your sister about this." "I'm talking to you." Mom sighed heavily. "Olivia, you know your sister is particular about these things." "What things?" "The wedding has a certain aesthetic. Mia didn't think you'd fit in." The words hit me like a physical blow.
Didn't think I'd fit in.
The sister who had given up vacations and new clothes and restaurant meals so Mia could have her aesthetic life wasn't aesthetic enough to be invited. What does that even mean? I demanded, my voice rising. Mom's tone shifted to placating. "You know how Mia is. She's invited all these influencer friends, people from Daniel's family's social circle. She's worried you'd feel uncomfortable. She's worried I'd embarrass her." I translated flatly. "No, honey, it's not." "Did you know?" I interrupted. "About the money. Did you know I've been sending her $500 every week for the past 4 years because you and Dad told me she was struggling?" The silence on the other end was answer enough. "You knew," I whispered. "All of you knew. You let me drain my savings for her while she was living it up." "Olivia, that's not fair. Your sister has had her challenges." "Her challenges?" I laughed bitterly. Like which luxury car to buy? Which 5-star resort to visit? Which designer to wear to her wedding that I'm not invited to? She was going to invite you eventually, Mom tried weakly. Just not to the ceremony. Maybe the after party. That was when it all clicked. I wasn't family enough for the ceremony, but I was family enough to fund their lives. I wasn't part of Mia's real world, her world of affluence and influence. I was just the ATM in the background, dispensing cash on demand while being kept carefully out of sight. They had all been in on it. Mia, Mom, Dad. A coordinated effort to extract money from the responsible sister who wouldn't ask questions, who would believe the sob stories, who would feel morally obligated to help. The betrayal was so complete, so perfectly executed, that I could almost admire the con. "Tell Mia congratulations from me," I said coldly. "And tell her that her wedding gift from me has already been given. About $104,000 worth of it." I hung up before Mom could respond. That night, I made a decision. If I wasn't family enough to be invited to my sister's wedding, then I wasn't family enough to continue funding her lavish lifestyle. No warning. No explanation. Just the same silence she had given me. Monday came. For the first time in 4 years, I didn't make the transfer. By Wednesday, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. "Hey, did you forget to send this week? No worries if you're tight on cash, just let me know." The casual presumption infuriated me. I didn't respond. Friday morning, my phone rang. Mia's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. "Liv, it's me. I really need this week's money. Call me back ASAP." 3 more calls followed. I silenced them all. By Sunday, the tone had changed. The latest voicemail was tearful, desperate. "Liv, please. I don't know what's going on, but I really need your help. Things are tight right now with the wedding, and I'm counting on you. Please call me back." Things are tight. With the wedding at the Rosewood Estate. With the Range Rover. With the Bora Bora honeymoon. I almost laughed. Monday morning arrived again. No transfer. By Tuesday, my parents were calling too. I blocked them all. Through mutual friends' social media, I watched the beginning of her downfall from a distance. A cryptic post from Mia. "When people you trust let you down." Broken heart, the comments section filled with her fashionable friends offering support without knowing the context. I remained silent, watching. Waiting. The day I was supposed to receive an invitation that never came, I treated myself to a spa day using the $500 I would have sent to Mia. As I relaxed during my massage, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about money.
It was about respect.
About honesty. About being valued as a sister rather than used as a resource. When the frantic knocking came at my door a week later, I already knew who it was. I opened my door to find Mia standing there, her designer sunglasses pushed up into her perfectly highlighted hair. Her usual polished appearance was noticeably frazzled, mascara slightly smudged, nail polish chipped. Small imperfections that spoke volumes. "What the hell, Liv?" she demanded, pushing past me into my apartment. 3 weeks without answering my calls? Do you have any idea what you've done? I closed the door quietly, a strange calm settling over me. "Hello to you too, Mia. This isn't funny. The venue wants another deposit by tomorrow, and my florist just backed out because I couldn't pay the second installment." Her voice rose with each word, tinged with panic. "Everything is falling apart." I moved to my kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. Not offering her one was a small rebellion, but it felt significant. "Oh, I thought you had it all covered." Mia's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Your wedding. At the Rosewood Estate. The one I wasn't invited to." I took a slow sip. The one that apparently costs more than my annual salary. Her expression shifted, the anger momentarily replaced by guilt before she recovered. "Is that what this is about? You're punishing me over an invitation?" "No," I said calmly. "I'm simply no longer funding a lifestyle built on lies." "What are you talking about?" I set my glass down. "I saw your Instagram, Mia. The shopping sprees. The luxury apartment. The Range Rover. Not exactly the life of someone who can't afford groceries or electricity, is it?" Color drained from her face. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. For 4 years, I believed you were struggling. I sent you $500 every week because Mom and Dad told me you could barely make rent. I skipped vacations. I ate ramen for dinner. I put off my own dreams to help you." My voice remained steady despite the rage simmering beneath. "And all that time, you were living like a princess." "It's not what you think," she tried, desperation creeping into her voice. "Things got complicated." I echoed her own words back at her. "That's what you were going to say, right? Your new favorite excuse." Mia's eyes welled with tears. "Liv, please. I need your help. Just this one time." "Just this one time," I repeated with a bitter laugh. "Like the last 200 times weren't enough?" "The wedding is in 2 weeks," she pleaded. "Everything's already planned. People have booked flights. Daniel's family." She trailed off, the true nature of her panic becoming clear. "You're not worried about disappointing your guests," I realized aloud. "You're worried about looking bad in front of your fiancé's rich family." She didn't deny it. "How much?" I asked. Hope flashed across her face. $15,000 should cover the remaining deposits. I laughed, the sound hollow and unfamiliar even to my own ears. $15,000. On top of the $104,000 I've already given you. I'll pay you back after the honeymoon, I swear. Like you've been swearing for 4 years? I shook my head. No, Mia. No more money. But you don't understand what will happen if. I understand exactly what will happen, I interrupted. Your perfect wedding will fall apart. And for once, you'll face the consequences of your actions. The color returned to her cheeks in angry blotches. You're doing this on purpose. You're jealous that I found someone successful, that I'm having the wedding you'll never have. The accusation stung, but I didn't flinch. I'm not jealous, Mia. I'm awake. What happened next unfolded like a slow-motion car crash. Through mutual friends and social media, I watched as Mia's dream wedding disintegrated piece by piece. First came the venue cancellation. The Rosewood estate, apparently tired of payment extensions and bounce checks, released her date to another couple. Mia's desperate Instagram post, looking for last-minute wedding venue recommendations. Ring #wedding emergency, received more questions than solutions. Then the catering company pulled out. The wedding planner quit. The designer dress was held hostage at the boutique, awaiting final payment. 3 days before the wedding date, the honeymoon was canceled. The Bora Bora resort refunded the minimal deposit and released the reservation. With each collapse, my phone exploded with messages. My parents alternated between guilt trips and outright anger. How could you do this to your sister? My mother texted. We raised you better than this, my father wrote. I didn't respond to any of them. Mia's messages grew increasingly frantic, cycling through anger, bargaining, and finally, desperation. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. I'll pay you back double if you help me fix this. Please live. I'm begging you. I'll invite you to the wedding. You can be a bridesmaid. Anything. Each message confirmed what I already knew. I had never been excluded from her wedding because I wouldn't fit the aesthetic. I was excluded because I was the secret benefactor, the hidden ATM. My presence would raise too many questions about how a struggling artist could afford such luxury. The night before what would have been her wedding day, Mia showed up at my door again. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hair disheveled. Everything's gone, she sobbed. The venue, the flowers, the honeymoon. Daniel's parents are asking questions I can't answer. His mother suggested we postpone the wedding until we're more financially stable. She spat the words like they were poison.
Me.
Financially unstable. After everything I've done to appear successful. After everything I've done, I corrected quietly. With my money. She looked up, her tear-streaked face suddenly vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen since we were children. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. It started with just one lie, and then I couldn't stop. Please live. I need you. I studied my sister, really looked at her for perhaps the first time in years. Behind the designer clothes and perfect makeup was someone I barely recognized. You didn't need me at your wedding, I said softly. You don't need me now. Her face crumpled as she realized the truth. The ATM was permanently closed. The morning of what should have been Mia's perfect wedding day, my phone vibrated so persistently it nearly fell off my nightstand. 27 missed calls, 43 text messages, 5 voicemails. My family's digital siege had escalated overnight. I scrolled through the texts, each one more desperate or accusatory than the last. Mom, how could you do this to your sister? On her wedding day? Dad, we raised you better than this, Olivia. Family helps family. Mom again. Mia is absolutely devastated. I hope you're satisfied. Dad again. Call us immediately. We need to fix this disaster. The most recent text from my mother sent a chill through me. We're coming over. Be there. I had just enough time to shower and make coffee before the sharp knock came. When I opened the door, I faced not just my parents but Mia too, all three wearing matching expressions of righteous indignation. You've gone too far this time, my father began, pushing into my apartment without waiting for an invitation. My mother followed, arm wrapped protectively around Mia, whose red-rimmed eyes and carefully applied, natural makeup suggested she'd spent considerable time preparing to look devastated. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Mom demanded. "The rosewood has been paid for, but now they're claiming they never received the final payment. The florist won't return our calls. The caterer wants another deposit we've already paid." I leaned against the wall, cradling my coffee mug. That sounds like a Mia problem, not a me problem. My father's face reddened. This affects the entire family. Daniel's parents are questioning everything. They're wondering if they made a mistake letting their son marry into our family. "Into her lies, you mean?" I corrected quietly. "Enough." Dad slammed his hand on my counter. "You will fix this."
Today. Now.
I took a slow sip of my coffee.
No.
The single word seemed to echo in the sudden silence. "What did you say?" he whispered. I said no. I'm not giving Mia another cent. Not for her wedding. Not for her rent. Not for anything. My mother stepped forward. "Olivia, please be reasonable. I know you're upset about the invitation. This isn't about the invitation," I interrupted. "This is about 4 years of lies. For years of all of you manipulating me into supporting Mia's champagne lifestyle while I lived on a budget." "You exaggerate everything," Mia sniffled. "I wasn't living some extravagant life." I set down my mug with deliberate slowness. The Range Rover wasn't extravagant? The designer clothes? The luxury apartment? The Bora Bora honeymoon? Those were investments in my future, she insisted. In my relationships. In building connections with the right people. While I invested in ramen noodles and discounted produce, I laughed bitterly. "Do you have any idea what I could have done with that money, Mia? What dreams I put on hold for you?" "I was going to pay you back," she muttered.
When?
"After you'd squeezed another 100,000 out of me." My mother attempted a different approach. "Darling, we know you feel hurt, but punishing your sister like this." "I'm not punishing her," I said firmly. "I'm simply no longer enabling her. There's a difference." "I was going to invite you." Mia suddenly burst out. I just hadn't sent the invitation yet. The blatant lie hung in the air between us. "Mom already told me the truth," I said softly. "I didn't fit your wedding aesthetic." "That's not what I meant." Mia backpedaled, shooting a betrayed look at our mother. "I just thought you wouldn't be comfortable with all those fancy people. I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" I repeated incredulously. "By taking my money while excluding me from your life? That's an interesting definition of protection." "You're twisting everything," she protested, tears welling again. "I love you, Liv. You're my sister. I would never intentionally hurt you." The performance was impressive. The trembling lip, the glistening eyes, the perfectly pitched voice of wounded innocence. It had worked on me countless times before, but not today. "Stop," I said quietly. "Just stop. I don't believe you anymore, Mia. Maybe I never should have." My father, sensing the usual tactics weren't working, shifted to threats. "If you don't help your sister fix this mess, you'll regret it. Family is forever, Olivia. You're burning bridges you can't rebuild." I met his gaze steadily. I'm not the one who lit the match. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes, a flash of understanding, perhaps even guilt, before it hardened again into anger. "You've changed," he muttered. "Yes," I agreed. "I have." The confrontation continued for another hour. They cycled through guilt, anger, pleading, and back to guilt again. When it became clear I wouldn't budge, my mother played her final card. "If you don't help your sister," she said coldly, "don't expect us to be there when you need something." The irony was so perfect I almost laughed. When have you ever been there for me? When have any of you put my needs first? Name one time. Their silence was damning. Eventually, they left, Mia's parting words echoing in the hallway. "You'll regret this, Liv. When you're all alone with your money and no family, you'll realize what you've done." After they were gone, I sank onto my couch, emotionally drained but oddly peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened. The weight of responsibility for Mia's happiness, for her financial stability, for maintaining family peace at my own expense, All of it lifted from my shoulders. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. A photo appeared. Mia, sitting forlornly in a white dress at what looked like a community center, surrounded by hastily arranged folding chairs and drugstore flowers. The message read, "See what you've done to your sister's special day? Hope you're happy." I studied the photo carefully, noting the professional lighting, the artfully arranged, simple decorations, the perfect angle capturing Mia's beautiful sadness. It was staged. Another performance. Another manipulation. And for the first time, I saw through it completely. 3 months after Mia's hastily arranged wedding, I stood in my new apartment, admiring the view of the city skyline. The 2-bedroom condo in the heart of downtown had been my dream for years, one I'd finally allowed myself to pursue once I stopped funding Mia's lifestyle. The wedding, from what I'd heard through mutual friends, had indeed been a budget disaster. The last-minute venue change to the community center had raised eyebrows among Daniel's wealthy relatives. The buffet from a local catering company replaced the 5-course gourmet meal originally planned. The honeymoon to Bora Bora became a weekend at a beach resort 3 hours away. Throughout the ceremony, guests whispered, "Why the sudden change? What happened to the Rosewood estate? Wasn't Daniel's family loaded?" The question swirled, creating exactly the kind of attention Mia had always dreaded. People wondering about her finances, questioning her carefully curated image of success. Daniel's parents, in particular, had been bewildered by the dramatic downgrade. According to my cousin who attended, Daniel's mother cornered Mia during the reception. "I thought you said everything was paid for," she'd said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "Daniel told us you had substantial savings. Where did all that money go?" Mia couldn't admit the truth, that her substantial savings had been her sister's weekly transfers, that her carefully constructed image of financial independence had been built on my sacrifices. That would mean admitting she'd been lying to everyone, including her new husband, for years. Instead, she blamed me, painting herself as the victim of a jealous sister who'd sabotaged her wedding out of spite. But her explanation raised more questions than it answered. If she was so financially stable, why would stopping my support cause such a catastrophic collapse of her plans? The whispers continued throughout the reception. The wedding that was supposed to cement Mia's place in Daniel's affluent social circle instead raised red flags about her financial responsibility and honesty. I learned all this secondhand, of course. I wasn't there to witness Mia's humiliation. I wasn't invited. My phone buzzed with a text notification, pulling me from my thoughts. Another message from my mother, the 5th this week. They've been reaching out more frequently lately, their tone shifting from anger to tentative reconciliation. "Thinking of you, sweetheart. Dad, and I miss you. Call when you can." I set the phone down without responding. Perhaps someday I'd be ready to rebuild that relationship, but not yet. The wound was still too fresh, the betrayal too deep. My doorbell rang, the grocery delivery I'd been expecting. As I arranged fresh produce in my refrigerator, I marveled at how different my life had become in just a few months. Without the weekly $500 drain, I'd paid off my credit card debt, started a retirement account, enrolled in a master's program I'd been postponing for years. Simple luxuries like fresh groceries delivered to my door no longer seemed extravagant. I was thriving, embracing opportunities I denied myself while supporting Mia. The irony wasn't lost on me. By stopping the flow of money to my sister, I'd finally started investing in myself. The phone rang just as I was pouring a glass of wine to celebrate another week of my new, self-prioritizing life. Mia's name flashed on the screen. After months of silence, her timing was impeccable, catching me in a moment of reflection about how much better life had become without her financial drain. Against my better judgment, I answered,
"Liv."
Her voice was tentative, missing the usual confidence. "I didn't think you'd pick up. What do you want, Mia?" She inhaled sharply. I need to talk to you. Things have been difficult since the wedding." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, surprised to find I actually meant it. Despite everything, I didn't wish her ill. "Daniel and I are having some problems," she continued. "His parents keep questioning our finances. They're suggesting we might not be compatible in our approaches to money. I said nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. I've been thinking about what you said, she ventured. About the lies. About using you. You were right, and I'm sorry. The apology sounded rehearsed, the delivery too smooth. The old Mia, the manipulative Mia, shining through despite her attempt at contrition. Thank you for acknowledging that, I said carefully. So, I was hoping. She paused, her voice dropping to the familiar vulnerable tone that had worked so many times before. Just one more favor, Liv. To help us get through this rough patch. Daniel's parents are watching our spending so closely, and we have this investment opportunity that could really turn things around for us. And there it was. The real reason for her call. Not reconciliation. Not genuine remorse. Just another attempt to access my bank account. I'm sorry, Mia, I said quietly. I can't help you with that. It's just a small loan, she pressed. $5,000. I swear I'll pay you back this time. Like you swore before? I asked. For 4 years. This is different, she insisted. I've learned my lesson. I value our relationship now. I took a sip of wine, considering my response carefully. You know what I've learned, Mia? That some people only value relationships for what they can get from them. I was never really your sister. I was your personal A. That's not fair, she protested. I love you. Maybe you do, I conceded. In your way. But I've moved on. I'm investing in myself now, and it's paying off beautifully. So that's it. Her voice hardened. You're just cutting me off forever? I'm sorry, sis, I said, echoing the words I'd rehearsed in my mind during countless sleepless nights. I'm all out of money for people who don't consider me family. I ended the call and blocked her number, turning back to the city view from my window. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the skyline, a fitting backdrop for the closing of this chapter. The story of Mia and me wasn't over. Family stories rarely end completely, but the dynamic had changed forever. I had changed. No longer the reliable ATM, the constant safety net, the silent supporter. I raised my glass in a silent toast to my new life. To boundaries. To self-respect. To the power of finally saying no. To becoming the main character in my own story.